Hey guys, Frank here and welcome to another episode of How Did I Shoot This One? And today we have this shot and this shot, and both of those shots I'm not 100% happy with, but I'm still gonna tell you why and how. Now, during the workshops, we always ask our students, like, what do you want to learn today? And one of my students is a big fan of freezing motion. Now, during the workshops, we sometimes use freezing motion because it's one of the most beautiful things you can do during a photo shoot. If you have a model that's a little bit nervous, or you have a model that doesn't really get into the vibe yet, just add some motion, like, hey, do a flick of your hair or jump up and down, and you will immediately get more fun in your photo shoot, and the model will ease up, and you will get much better shots. But sometimes you also want something else. So during the workshops, we also sometimes combine continuous lighting with strobes. So what is the main advantage of that? Well, actually pretty simple. LED tubes nowadays, like for example the powerful tubes from Nonlight, are very powerful. So that means that you can combine strobes, continuous lighting, and everything else together in one shot. You could call it HDR. It's not really HDR, but you know what I mean, right? Now, you are combining two different light sources. The strobe, of course, is a pulse that's very fast, and the continuous lighting builds up over time. Now, when you take that into account, you could think about something that freezes the motion, and then you leave the shutter open to let in more of the ambient light to render the rest of the image. So far, so good. We've done that many times, and that's actually this image that you see now. So how do we do something like this? We actually do it in reverse. So first, I tell my model, okay, now look into the light and scream like it's your end shot, and then just turn around and do some stuff, and I move around my camera. So that one we've done many times. But there's also another way of freezing motion and making it more interesting, and that's called the so-called stroboscopic effect. Now, with the stroboscopic effect, what you do is you program your strobe to fire several strobes during a certain amount of time. For example, 2 seconds, 4 strobes, or 1 second, 4 strobes. And that sounds very interesting for example, a golf swing or a moving model that jumps on a stage. Now, our studio isn't that big. It's large, but it's not that big that we can make a model just jump over 4 or 5 meters. So when my student asked me, like, hey, can you do something with stroboscopic effects? We started out with just letting the model jump up and down, and the results were horrendous. And as you know, I'm always totally open to you guys, so there we go. Here you can see one of those shots. And the whole reason for this is it's too compact. The model jumps over, it just doesn't look right. And I was almost ready to give up, and I told my attendee, like, okay, if you want to shoot this, be my guest. And I was just sitting down and I was just thinking about, lately I've been on this Metallica like craze, like I'm watching a lot of their videos. And one of the things that I also saw was a photo shoot for one of their albums. Now, what they did during that photo shoot was actually make the members of Metallica look into the camera and scream, and look that way, and look weird, and look aggressive, and that way, and come forward, and hold your hands like this. And then later in Photoshop, they combined everything together in one shot. And that got me thinking. And while my student was shooting and was going like, no, it doesn't work right. Okay, this one is nice. And I was just going in my mind, I was going like, why don't we create something like that? And that's exactly what we did. Now, this is the tip for today. Sometimes you have a setup that doesn't work, but don't give up. Try to find things that do work, because in all honesty, we tried a few of those shots where she moved her head, and here you can see one that it isn't really nice. You can see the ear ringing through, and that's a whole part of luck. You could say, okay, do that in Photoshop and it's great, but where's the fun in that, right? But finally, I got one where I got like, hey, this is really interesting. And I think this is the cool thing about using new techniques that you never experienced before. Because for me, the stroboscopic effect is cool. I did it in the past a few times with, for example, models that one strobe over here, look at the strobe, then turn around with continuous lighting, look at the strobe over here. I will show you one of those images now in the screen. But that's fun. But the pure stroboscopic effect I never used before. And I was a little bit frustrated that I couldn't get a great image. Up until I said, you know what, we're not going to do full bodies, we're just going to focus on just the face. And that's where we ended up with this one. So let's take a look at the behind the scenes video so you can see the setup, but I'm already going to tell you it's pretty basic, and of course the final results. I hope you enjoyed the small behind the scenes video. The lighting setup was super simple, but there's one trick in this lighting setup that I didn't tell you about yet. So always stick till the end, right? Now, if you look at the setup, you can actually see that my front strobe is strobing. That's the one that's doing this all the time. But when you look closely, do you see that there's also red and blue in the back? Why don't those move? That's the whole trick. I'm using a so-called dumb trigger system. So normally on the G-Kotos we use a so-called commander. Now with the commander you can control all your strobes, including the stroboscopic effect. The problem is, however, what if I want some strobes to be stroboscopic and some strobes to just fire? And that's why we use dumb triggers. Because with the dumb trigger I can use my commander to set up one of the strobes to strobe, and the other ones we just set up on manual with the dumb trigger. The dumb trigger triggers all the strobes, only one strobe goes into the stroboscopic effect, and the other two strobes just fire once, boom, and that's it. The reason I'm doing this is the stroboscopic effect is no problem if we move that around. It actually adds to the whole vibe and the whole movement of that shot. But you don't want that red and that blue to go all over. Well, if you like it, that's cool. You want those to be steady and stable. And that's why we use the dumb triggers. The real reason, by the way, is because during a workshop we can't use the commander because everybody has a different camera, like Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fuji, Hasselblad. Did I mention all the names? Otherwise, all the other brands. And we don't have commanders for every brand, so that's why we use those dumb controllers. And in this case, it actually worked out really well because those make it possible to combine those different settings on the strobe. So next time you're in the studio and something doesn't work out the way you want, try to find another solution. You might end up with something that's interesting, because this is something I might revisit in the future, and with the knowledge I have now, we probably can do it a lot better. See you again next time. Bye guys.